In this lesson titled Finding and Replacing Data, we're in Workbook Lesson 05, Layout Features, and in Worksheet tab, Find, Replace. Many times when working in an Excel worksheet, we find a need to find and replace our data. I've seen many circumstances such as they change the way they do a part number. They now put a W in front of all certain kind of part numbers. So we need to find all of those and then replace them. In this case, we're going to use the scenario where one of our building names has changed. It's no longer called the North Building. It's now been named after the Smith family who donated money to the organization. So let's take a look at Find and Replace. It's all the way up here on our Home tab, and the very far right, it's called Find and Select. Now this tool does a lot of things, and Find and Replace is just one of them. So we're going to click here on the little drop down arrow, and why don't we just start with Find. So we're going to bring up Find. So the first thing we can use Find for is actually finding what it is we want. Let's say we want to find North, N-O-R-T-H, and I can say Find Next, and if you look in our document, it found the next one in our worksheet. But also, if I open up my options, I now have a button called Find All. If I say Find All and I open this up, it'll give me the reference here, the cell reference, for every time it found the word North. This can be really handy if you were trying to, for instance, find an individual or a part number or something that you wanted to see over and over again in your worksheet. You can find out everywhere it appeared. So now that we have found it, that's very good, and I could click on any of these to look at those references. I'm going to come back up here to the top. Now we want to actually replace it. So we also have a Replace tab. So here we have North. What do we want to replace it with? I'll highlight here and say Smith. So now it's going to find North and replace with Smith. So the Replace tab has both Find and Replace built into it. We have some other options here, like do we want to find it just on this sheet, and do we want to search row by row, and do we need to match the case? In other words, if it's a lowercase Smith, it wouldn't find it if we click Match Case. So I'm going to just simply say Replace All, because I'm pretty confident about this. Replace All. And it says 101 replacements were made. And we can see here that all of our Norths have become Smiths all the way down here. We'll say OK. So it's a very handy tool. It also has some really interesting options about finding formats. Did you notice over here, once we opened up our options, I'm going to close that again and open it again. When we opened up our options, we had over here Format. So we can find a particular format and we can replace it with a particular format. So because the Smith building was new, we're kind of concerned about making sure people see it in our list here. We could say we want to find all the Smiths, but we want to replace it with Smith, and here it says no format set. I'm going to click Format, and I'll get this Format dialog box. I can come over here to my Fill tab. I can choose yellow and say OK. And now it's going to replace with Smith formatted as yellow, and it even gives me a preview here about that color yellow. Now when I say Replace All, I can see here all my Smiths were replaced with that yellow. So it's very useful. Let's kind of look at it another way. What if we wanted to find everywhere there was a yellow format and replace it with something, right? Maybe someone had gone through and highlighted everything where they thought this name or this part number should be, one particular thing. Well, we could find everywhere this formatting existed. So I'm going to mix this up a little bit. So over here, I'm going to say find what? We want to find Smith. With what format? I'm going to come over here to Format. It's with this yellow color here and say OK. And what do we replace it with? Maybe you want to change that completely and call it New Building, because maybe we're not sure what the name should be after all. And Do we want it to be formatted yellow? No, not this time. Click here. And then I can actually pick right up here at the very top where it says no color and then say OK. And so we're going to replace all the Smiths that have yellow and replace them with new building and say replace all. And then we get new building here. I did 102 replacements. So it can be a very powerful tool because we can actually find a certain formatting and we can replace that formatting. Now I want to look at another way we can use the Find tab. So let's come over here to Find. And let's say we were looking for a name, but we weren't quite sure what it was. We just kind of remember that it was like Ann or Anna or Anita, or just can't remember what it is. So we'll type A-N. We're going to do capital A, lowercase n. Let's say match case, because we do want to get names that start with capital A and then lowercase n. And over here we see we have a little problem. We're going to be looking for AN, but with this format yellow. It's kind of important to remember to clear that. Let's go to Format. Now I could say no color, but sometimes that also gives us an error looking for no color. It's usually better if we really want to clear it completely to say clear down here. So I hit clear and say OK. So up here it should say no format set. And we're looking for AN, match case, and we want to say find all. Let's open this back up again. And here is all the ANs. Now this is valuable. As we look down here, we see Andrian, Andrew, Angela, Angus, Anita, Ann. So you can really find the ones that you're looking for. It's here, Ann Greer, that I was looking for. So I can click on that, and it'll actually take it to me in the worksheet. So Find can be pretty useful when you can just remember part of something. Maybe it was just the first half or second half even of like a part number. Very good. We'll close that. And that is Find and Replace.